We might be live. I think we're
Yeah.
we're testing out some new software today, and so we're live. It says we're live.
Nice. Let's
We're
do
going
it live.
Let's do it.
All right. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Good. I'm loving our early summer.
I'm
not getting on a patio yesterday.
My volunteer rink is getting decimated.
Volunteer swimming pool?
Yeah, it's more of a swimming pool. It's not in great shape, and we're with the water restrictions, we're not able to flood it either. So we're kind of waiting for it to get cool again, or at least cold enough overnight that we can get it back in shape. But
can you get a truck? Can you bring in a truck from Cochrane or something, but it's just not worth it?
No, we are able to bring in a truck, and the city does help us with that. They give us a budget. Because my liner was a year old and was in such poor condition, I blew the budget on water because it all just leaked out into the into the park. So I'm well over my budget. I can get another truck. It's just going to cost me money. But the guys that we use, Big Rock Water Hauling, shout out to those guys. They gave us a pretty good deal on water when we call for it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so you got a good solid 5 days out of it. No, actually, maybe
I had it ready on about Christmas Eve or so.
Yeah.
And it got it like up and running and shoveled. And it was great for 2.5 weeks or so. Now it's trashed. It's just trashed.
Yeah, that's challenging.
So yeah, warm weather, great. Ice rinks, ODRs, not so much.
Yeah. So first of all, why don't we reintroduce ourselves again? This is the new year. Just quickly. Dan, go for it. Just quick.
Dan Stanty, I guess I should say we're all with the Real Broker and Sanders Stanty Real Estate here in Calgary. I'm second generation and realtor, that is. Been in the business 15 years, lots of volunteer work on the Calgary Real Estate Board. And I don't know, that's it.
That's a snapshot. All right, I'm Michael Boosley. I joined the team in 2019. Obviously we're with Real Broker. And I've got more than a few kids. I was going to say I've got a few kids, but I've got 4 kids. And we love to ski. We love to play hockey. Love to play lacrosse. And we have a few pets. And that's it. And I like long walks on the beach.
Nice. I'm Mike Stanty. I'm Dan's brother and Michael Boosley's cousin. I joined in 2017. All on the same team, all the same brokerage. I have 2 kids, Max and Theo, and they're a little younger than everyone else's kids here. So I am the resident old dad, which is
Big Gramps.
It comes with its own set of perks and pitfalls. But yeah, and we're here to talk about the Calgary real estate market and what we see as sort of boots on the ground. So
there you go. Yeah. So next week coming up, the Calgary Real Estate Board has their annual forecast for 2026. And we thought it would be really kind of fun to debrief the 2025 forecast today and just kind of see where some of the predictions from last year landed and, how close was it? And, and maybe was it trending in the right direction or was it off? So yeah, we thought we'd pick a few metrics out of that and run through them quickly just to see what did that look like. So I'm going to throw the screen up here, the forecast from last year. We'll just run through that pretty quick. So
sweet. All right. So forecasts. Okay. So one of the key stats that were, part of the forecast was how many houses sold in 2025. And this is across all housing forms, apartments, detached, semi-detached, row house, all that stuff. And so the CREB forecast 26,000 sales. And I think that's like slightly above the long-term forecast. And I guess, here they suggest those can be 20% above long-term trends. So Dan, where were we?
We finished the year, this is coming from the Krebs stats, at 22,751. So
yeah,
forecast was a little high. We were down, somewhere between 10 and 15% from the projection.
Yeah. And just sort of drilling down into this little information, little box here. Annual average months of supply previously was 1.68, 1.35, and 1.59. So for up until 2025, we were in a pretty strong, I would say, seller's market, where if the house hit the market, for the most part, it would sell. That I think changed in 2025. So what is the actual? Sorry, coming back to the forecast here, and the forecast risks. They talked about some of the risks, tariffs being one of the biggest ones, like the unknowns of kind of the recent election or the last year's election, with Donald Trump getting into office. And, I would say it kind of bore out. And so coming to GDP growth, do you have the stat, Dan? They forecasted 2.5% GDP growth in Alberta.
Yeah. So they haven't released the full year's GDP growth yet for 2025, but through Q3 last year, it is reported by StatsCan to be at 1.4% year over year in Q3. So again, not quite as strong, and probably based on those risks you just mentioned, understandable.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. Okay.
One more thing, Michael, just to touch on your previous comment of where the market was in 2025, the months of supply for Calgary was 3.03, if I'm reading this right. This is to the year to date, the end of December. So
that's overall across all housing markets and market segments, it's a balanced market. But if we drill in a little bit, more, into the detail where we're looking at detached homes or condos, it tells a different story. And Dan, do you have some of those stats?
Yeah, and I think that really it's we're kind of like, we've got these two different ends of the market that are pulling. Like the detached market was still at 2.67 in terms of months of supply, and the apartment at 3.95. And so like those two different segments are doing different things.
Yeah.
Or maybe the same thing, but at different velocities. And so it's, reporting an average is not always the best metric, but it's it's kind of the tale of the two. And then like the different segments in between, when you talk about, like, if you have detached on one side, apartment over here, in between is semi-detached and row housing, right? So they're kind of all they're kind of right in line, I would say, in terms of their months of supply. Like detached 267, semi-detached 271, row 396, and apartment. Row is 296 and apartment is 3.95. So, as you go down that scale, it seems to be like a little bit more supply down here, less supply over here.
So Dan or Mike, what does like months of supply mean? Like in all practical terms, like.
Yeah, that's a good question. Mike, do you want to take
that? Sure, I'll try to get it right. The months of supply says that if you were to have the same number of listings hitting the market as you have this is where I think I'm going to screw it up. If there's no more that hit the market, then it's going to take 3.5 months based on the current rate of sales to chew through the inventory that we have. So if there are no more listings that hit the market, that's how long it's going to take. If there are new listings coming in, then it's going to be predictably longer on average.
Yeah. And another way to say it also is like, if 100 homes hit the market in this next month, if it's a 3 months of supply, 1/3 of them will sell. essentially.
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. And if you look at the apartments where it's, let's call it 4 months of supply, only a quarter of those apartments would sell in a month.
Yeah.
Another way. Yeah.
So it just kind of highlights, I think the market is a little bit price sensitive, more so than it was in 2023, 2022, 2024. But where, do you want to talk about kind of what we think is going to be happening, or should we wait till next week, next podcast, and review the forecast that comes out by Krebs?
I think let's review the forecast. Let's let's not place any wagers just yet.
Okay, all right.
Information, but I see on screen there you've got population. So let's chat population.
Yeah. So population. Okay. So they forecast 3.1% population growth in Calgary, and in Alberta 1.9% population growth, which equates to about, they forecast, and this is including interprovincial migration from other provinces into, as well as international migration. So they had it at about 120,000 into Alberta, and what the reality was, actually bore out for 2025 was it was about 84,000 people. So they were also off on that. However, when you look at the overall Canadian picture, and I think I've got those stats right here. Okay, so sorry, we'll just expand this. So overall, Canada grew by 81,000 people. However, Alberta itself grew by almost 84,000 people. And so you see, negative 36,000 in Ontario, negative 13,000 in BC. This is so basically, Alberta is still a magnet for people across the country as well as internationally, and we anticipate the same thing going into. And I guess we'll review Krebs' take next week when the forecast comes out.
Yes, those are interesting stats. That virtually all of the growth in population in Canada was in Alberta.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe more. I think we said 84,000, and Canada was only 81,000 in growth. So. Yeah.
We won't go into some of the other stats right now, but I'll just come to this summary. Okay, so so basically, for 2025, they forecast 26,000 in sales totally. Detached, they forecast 12,600. Semi-detached 2,400. Row house 45. I won't go through all of it, but essentially they forecast growth in all areas. And what was the reality, Dan?
Yeah. So again, pulling from the year-end stats from Krebs, the detached benchmark price was projected to be up 2.9%, and was actually down 2.4% year over year. That's at one end of the scale. The other end, I remember, like apartments were projected to be up 1.8%. They were actually down 7%. So
okay.
A different, again, kind of two different stories, but both of them, I think, trending in the same way, where the market has definitely turned from a strong seller's market to a little bit more of a buyer's market. That's I think going to be a continued storyline through this year, is that it's probably continued softening. I don't know if it's going to be as drastic as a 7% decrease on apartments this year. That's a pretty sizable decrease in 1 year, but I hesitate to make projections because there are a lot of leading indicators that go into these kind of projections. And just to touch on a couple, that population growth, that's a huge one. And so I'm still fairly high on Alberta as a center where people are moving to. So that's one of the leading indicators, and maybe the farthest out leading indicator, the 84,000 people coming to Alberta last year. I think that doesn't stop on a dime. Like that takes, months and years to see a significant change. But so that one I think will continue. We'll still see positive growth here in population, in addition to people that just move around the province. So the market will still be robust, I think.
Yeah.
What are some other leading indicators, though, that we can look to try and add to our predictions, maybe that we can layer on top of the CREB forecast?
Well, okay, so some of the ones that kind of pop out in my mind that are easily attainable in terms of the data is the information that CREB provides on a weekly basis, and so like they provide sales, they provide new listing data, so the sales to new listings ratio is, I think, an important metric. So right now, well, in the heyday of things, it was the sales to new listings ratio was around 1. So essentially, like if a house hit the market, it would basically be sold within, basically a month. Now it's at 0.55, 0.57, depending on the housing type, and which means that for every 2 listings that get on the market, only 1 selling. So that's a key thing. Now I think it's going to improve this year. So that's one of them. Another one. I
want to interrupt, Michael. For the month of December, the sales to new listing ratio was 92%.
Yes, but what is driving that?
Yes.
That is because most people who are wanting to list are actually like, no, December's a bad month to list. That's their viewpoint. And so, in my opinion, that actually obscures the fact that if you look at the total year data, it's at 0.5, 0.57.
Yeah. So
does that make sense, Dan? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I think what I was getting at is maybe that's signaling a little bit of change in the market.
Perhaps, yeah.
Somewhat. Like if more properties, like the sense I got through December was that people are active. Like it didn't seem to slow down over the holidays, like in some years it could.
Yeah.
So
that's funny, because I found the opposite. I found that for the stuff that I was looking at, things did definitely slow down. People took a pause, but it does seem like in January things are more active again. Like they're back to work.
Yeah, I feel that too. I'm optimistic about this year. So I want to ask you guys this question, and we'll get back to leading indicators just in a sec. But after a year or so where there's a lot less activity than what they forecast, would you say that there's pent up demand for doing transactions? Like people's lives go on, like people have to move. They've got, they're having babies, so they want to change their house. They want to, go from a smaller house to a larger. There's a whole bunch of, people are passing away. So there's just like inevitable churn. Don't you think that eventually it does kind of pick up, even if economic indicators are kind of maybe flat, perhaps?
Mike, you take this one first. I want to hear your thoughts.
I don't know that we have pent up demand. I think that we have been chewing through demand for a good few years.
Yeah.
We're at a stage now where we need to build some demand to have that balanced market that we can operate in with some degree of certainty, that, or at least knowing what the rules are.
Yeah.
And what the rules of thumb are. I don't know if I would say that the last year has built some pent up demand.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And Dan, what's your take on that?
My take is that there might be a little bit of pent up demand, but I think that what we're going to see this year is a new baseline more than chewing through demand. So Alberta right now, we're a little over 5 million people, right? And the last time that we had a negative turning market, I would say where it started to turn, we were 2015.
Yeah.
And we had, I'm just getting the number here, we were around 4 million. So we've added 1 million people to the province, a lot of those in Calgary over the last decade. And I think that I think that we're going to see this year start to set a new baseline of what is like. I don't think there's going to be a lot of opportunistic buying. People trying to capitalize on the market. Buy in January, sell in September, that kind of stuff. Like it's going to be just like you said, life goes on.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a bit of a new baseline set this year. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Sure. Yeah. One other factor I think that Calgarians know, I think, is when the new municipal election occurred, one of the biggest issues was the blanket rezoning that had been put in place, I think, the year previous. And so, the leading candidate, Jeremy Farkas, and others, they were like, yeah, we're going to roll back. We're going to repeal. So right now that review process is happening. And I don't know exactly where it is in the process, but, it is going to be a pullback from that blanket rezoning. I don't know how it's going to look at all. But basically that has created a ton of uncertainty in the market, where I would say developers and investors have pulled back away from being a buyer right now, just temporarily. And that occurred, through the last 3 or 4 months of, and probably even longer, of 2025. And it's going to extend for the first couple months in this year until they resolve and create a set direction long-term for that whole zoning initiative. Don't you guys agree? Like I'm seeing it right now. Like they're just not competitors, I think, in a lot of the older inner city home market.
I would say that I've seen I have a listing in particular in Renfrew that is getting some attention from developers, but they are, in my view, the house is not a land value tear down house.
Yeah.
We've had, I think, 3 offers from developers offering land value. So they're,
okay.
So I think they're swinging for property that I think that maybe doesn't quite justify, but a good lot's a good lot, and they're still trying to pick them up. It just doesn't.
It's like they're not getting into speculative territory. They're not like just like bidding.
Yeah.
It's not bidding wars.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're bargain hunting.
Paying for land right now by any means. No, the offers that we've seen come through were pretty, I'll say, disciplined offers.
Yeah. Why don't we come back? Okay, just quickly, and we should wrap it up pretty quick here. But other leading indicators is the amount, and this is a piece that I would love to get as data on a weekly basis, but it's not quite available. It's showing activity. And that would be like a really nice leading indicator, not a lagging indicator. And so, Dan, or Mike, like right now, that's not really available to us, like at a Calgary municipal level. Would you say?
It's not. Yeah. There was a time when it was available, and our provider that we use in the city for that kind of stuff is just makes it a little more obscure. It's lagging. First of all, like they only report to the end of the previous month, and it's not at a local level at all. It's kind of it's lumped in with national and international. So. Not to say there's no value in that data, but it's not super local, which real estate tends to be. So I think that we can look at that, and it's interesting if you look at it, that there are, I think the stats there show that there are more showings across North America this year, this December, than there have ever been since they started tracking that data. So that's interesting. And again, I won't comment on what the U.S. market's doing. It obviously has a huge influence there. They've got 10 times the population, age of population, all that stuff. So it's going to influence that heavily. But it's interesting to see that uptick, I guess, this year.
Another leading, I'll just go through a couple more leading indicators. Mortgage activity, application activity is one potential leading indicator. And so, we we know mortgage brokers. We were in conversation with them, and that has been a signal to me in the last week or so that things are starting to pick up. Actually, the market's starting to really wake up. And also coming back to the showings, I would say that on our listings, showing activity is starting to pick up. In a significant way, I would say. So those two things, as well as in terms of mortgages, mortgage rate direction. So like, even if the mortgage rate is kind of higher, if it's going in, like going down, it's going to pick up. It's not necessarily like an absolute. It's more that direction. So I would say that kind of like hints at like a little bit of increased activity. Anyways, there's a few others, but we can leave it at that. Dan, I know you've got to get going.
I do. And sorry, I just realized that I was like the big head on the screen there the whole time. So apologize. New software, just getting used to it.
No, you've got a big head.
That's it's just real life representation.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I do have to get running here. So thanks, guys. I think this is good. I think that we should, this is a good thing to do when there was predictions, and especially coming up on the new ones. Just let's recap how did they do, and then next time we will we'll recap the predictions for 2026.
Yeah.
And fill in some gaps maybe with our own thoughts. So,
sweet.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks,
you guys.
Okay.
Take care.
Next time. Ciao.
Bye.